Standards-based grading. This is what it's going to be presented on this PowerPoint, presented by Kenneth Martin. Standards-based grading has become quite the hot topic within the last 10 years in education. And how it kind of got started was basically, as a nation, we decided that we needed to develop some national standards. And back in 2009, there was a thing developed called the Common Core Initiative. The Common Core Initiative wanted to develop some national standards that could be used throughout the country. And the reason for these standards was to make sure the students are prepared for post-secondary education and in the work world. So in 2009 and 2010, there was a group of people that got together that consisted of the Council of Chief State School Officers, National Governors Association, teachers, and content experts. And they developed the final Common Core standards. Now, the question comes, why standards-based grading? Grading has been looked at deeply within the last 10 years, and traditional grading has always been what has been used. Traditional grading is the letter grades from A, B, C, D, and F. And these grades and letter grades are actually developed using many different factors besides what the student is actually learning, what their knowledge is. Letter grades can be very misleading. A student that scores a 70, between a 70 and an 80, may not have mastered the skills, but they will be pushed on and moved on because that's a passing grade, and they may not have mastered the standards whatsoever. So this kind of represents why standards-based grading is so important. Because if you can tell that a student has mastered the standard, then it's time to move on. Not until then. It's not halfway know the standard. You can't move on until you've mastered it. Factors that come into play with traditional grading that kind of cloud up the issue are things such as behavior, extra credit, homework, attendance. All these things affect a student's grade when using traditional grading. And as far as grading on standards and reaching these standards, when this happens, standards-based grading, it's meaningful. It means more to the kids, to the parents. It's more transparent. There's more of an understanding. It's clear and it's fair. They either reach the standard or they don't. Now, with the development of the Every Student Succeeds, which has replaced the No Child Left Behind Act. And basically what this Every Student Succeeds pushes is that there's now laws that hold schools accountable for student success. They need to show proficiency. And what better way to show proficiency than when comparing to the standards? Students will need multiple opportunities to show proficiency in standards. And this is kind of a cornerstone piece for standards-based grading. You can't hold a kid accountable if they don't understand. You have to give them a chance to learn it. And I kind of take this showing proficiency at multiple opportunities. Think about somebody in a pie baking contest. They know the contest is on Saturday. So on Wednesday, they bake a pie. It looks great. They're excited about it. They take a bite of it, and it just doesn't taste well. So what do? They whip up another pie. This time it looks good, kind of tastes good, but it really falls apart. It's not really where they want it to be. So on Saturday morning, they cook their third pie, and it's beautiful. Looks good, tastes good, holds together. This is what they're going to enter in the pie contest. And that's what standards-based grading is. You have multiple opportunities. Traditional grading would take that first pie. You get one chance. That's why there needs to be multiple opportunities to show proficiency. Now, standards-based grading is not a walk in the park. There will be some difficulties, especially for the teachers. You know, they have some work in front of them, and this may turn some teachers off. You know, teachers are very particular about how they grade their kids and how they work their craft. So getting them to make this change might take some pushing. But if you can motivate them and show the teachers that there is an opportunity to reach the kids, they're going to be willing to do it. Some things they're going to have to do is they're going to have to tailor all of their work around the standards, which they may have not done before. All the tests and assessments they've been giving may have to be modified or changed. They will also have to somehow find consistency amongst themselves and other teachers and how to tell achievement is measured. This takes collaboration. This is what PLCs are for. It's that dialogue. Working together. Now, within this research, within this study, there is a research design and a research question. The research question is, does standards-based grading have an impact on student achievement? Now, when you're looking at this kind of research, you're trying to find out if standards-based grading, if it has a positive impact on student achievement. You have to think about what kind of research design needs to be used in order to find this out. So you need to know what the hypothesis is. So for this research, the hypothesis, standards-based grading does have a positive impact on student achievement. And in order to find this out, you're going to have a sample population. And in this case, a sample population of students that are in various classes in various schools. And because they're already in classes, it almost mandates what kind of research design you're going to have to use. Because you can't randomly select the sample population. It's already selected for you. That's why you lean towards a quasi-experimental design. And the exact design would be the non-equivalent comparison group design. Now, this design has a control group and an experimental group. Okay, the control group would be receiving traditional grading throughout the semester. Okay, now in the beginning, before they start the semester, they will receive a pretest, every student. Then they're going to go through the semester. At the end of the semester, they're going to have a post-test. Okay, the pretest will give a baseline of where they are, and the post-test will show how far they've come. And the experimental group will be receiving standards-based grading between the pretest and the post-test. Now, the pretest and the post-test are what's going to be used to figure out and be able to show and prove that standards-based grading does impact student achievement. Data. The data comparison is what's going to really show if this research design proves what you want it to prove. What's going to happen, the researchers are going to have to look at the pre-test, they're going to have to look at the post-test from both the control group and the experimental group. They're going to run what's called a t-test. Okay, t-test will help see the differences between the groups. They will be able to see if there's a marked improvement when using standards-based grading. The variables in this research design include the dependent variable and the independent variable. In this case, the dependent variable would be student achievement. The independent variable would be standards-based grading. So we want to see if there's a causal relationship between these two. Does standards-based grading impact student achievement? Now, this research design does have possible threats to validity. And it all goes back to the sample population. Because there is no randomization in selecting the sample population, it could lead to bias, certain biases. One bias could be student prior knowledge. When you are using different classes at different schools, the students are going to have different backgrounds coming into the class. So that's going to have to be something that's taken into consideration. Now, to help ease some of this, the pre-test lessens it because it does give a starting point for where the students are at the beginning. Even if they may be at different levels, if you know where they started and where they end on the post-test, you can still see if standards-based grading or traditional grading has more impact. Another threat to bias would be the teachers. Now, some teachers obviously are more effective than others. Maybe they prepare more, or the kids understand what they're saying more. But this is another threat to validity. Selection maturation is another threat to validity. Now, in selection maturation is if throughout the semester, some kids may get a little bored with the subject. They may lose interest. This will affect the post-test. Selection regression is another threat to validity. This happens because different groups are from different populations. You know, when you're when you're testing multiple classes, multiple schools, some schools can have high achieving students, some schools could have low achieving students. This could have a threat on the validity. But once again, I do think that the pre-test helps alleviate some of these problems. In conclusion, I do think that it is possible to research and find out if standards-based grading impacts student achievement. It may be a process, and it may take time, but if done the right way, I think there can be a good result from the experiment. Thank you for listening. This is Kenneth Martin, and I'm going to show you the references. Have a good night.